Hey guys, it's Olivie Blake, and this is me not writing. Sometimes I just look at my reflection and I'm like, okay, then that's what we're doing. Well, there's a lot of stuff that I'm not supposed to talk about until I'm supposed to talk about it. So I'm actually filming this really far in advance of when I think it will actually post. I also think that one of the things that is scheduled to post, I am also wearing this shirt. My mother gave it to me for Mother's Day, which is very interesting, but my son loves it. So, mission accomplished, I guess. And also, I've been wearing it for many days in a row. I'm gonna try and have some energy here. I am very tired. Where I don't know if I feel that this happens to me a lot because the book that I'm working on right now, The Gothic, I actually started it at this time of year 3 years ago, and I was really struggling with it then, which leads me to believe that this is maybe a difficult time of year for me creatively. I wish that I had actually tracked what I did from year to year so that I could figure out like when I'm particularly productive, because I actually do think that I am more productive at certain times of year. I almost always write a manuscript in the fall, and the last few years I've always written one in the summer, but I'm not sure that I actually accomplish anything in the spring. I honestly might not. Things to keep in mind for myself. Anyway, I have some things to show you. Here is mostly about 12th night, because I think that this will be posting when 12th night is coming out, which I also have a haircut, so maybe I'll look different the next time you see me. Who knows? So here is the pin that comes with the pre-order campaign, which at the point that this will be posting, it's too late to pre-order. But if you did pre-order and you submitted your receipt, you will be getting this in the mail. I think like after the book comes out, it comes separately from Tor. So if you don't get it with your book, it's fine. Everything will be fine. People often ask a lot of questions about that, and truthfully, I don't understand the operations of how that works, but I know that you will get it. I know this because I have done the Tor pre-order things myself. I remember I wanted really badly the tote bag that came with, I think, Vengeful for V Schwab. So yeah, I've done this before. What definitely has been announced is that 12th Night is the Barnes & Noble YA book club pick, which is really exciting. And I've talked about this before. Well, so this is the exclusive cover. Unfortunately, mine came a little bit damaged, so it doesn't look as beautiful in the pictures as hopefully yours will. It's a sticker. It'll come off. I think I can show you the end pages. I'm going to show you the end pages now. They're by Lil Camara, so obviously you know they're gorgeous. They are amazing. So here we have, this is Jack. This is the Duke Orsino character. This is Cesario, who is Viola in disguise. So you could see that she's down here. Anyway, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's so beautiful. We've got the edge that says game on. Also have this. It says some people just click, which is something that I made. It's a joke I made in an email, and they used it, and honestly, it's great. This is the same, actually. Okay, so the Barnes & Noble exclusive, this is the Barnes & Noble exclusive cover. Everything that I've just shown you, though, is on all the copies, all the US copies. But then the Barnes & Noble also has this extra short story, Methinks I Feel This Youth's Perfections. It is from Olivia's point of view. The thing that is just being announced today is this sticker, which is also a sticker. But yeah, this is the cover of my Reese's book club pick. Like, what? I have been called Tracy Flick multiple times in my life. When I was in my sorority, a boy came to pick me up with flowers, and the whole house reenacted, like just spontaneously reenacted the scene from Legally Blonde when Warner comes to pick up Elle. And I just feel like it's really crazy to just be like, Reese Witherspoon liked my book. I also, my other thing is that when I was, I don't know, 14, I got this Sweet Home Alabama like bob haircut. It looked real bad, but it's really exciting to me. I don't even know what to say. Like, it just feels so crazy. I feel like I'm just making stuff up. I'm just like saying nonsense. Like, what do you mean? This book is a Reese book club pick, but it is the summer Reese book club pick. And everything I just showed you in the Barnes and Noble thing, the Barnes and Noble exclusive also applies here. Anyway, I just don't even know what to say. I hope you come see me on tour. I think it's gonna be really fun. I'm gonna talk to a lot of my pals. And yeah, and you know, thank you to those of you who read the ARC and enjoyed it. And I hope that those of you who will read the book enjoy it. I hope you have a fun time. Like, definitely summer rom-com was the vibe when I was writing it. It's my pandemic book, so I was very much like trying to get through a difficult and scary time in life by falling back on what is familiar to me, which is definitely nostalgia and being an unlikable female character. That comes very naturally to me. It's definitely like, I keep calling it my celebration of girls in fandom and gaming. It's about, you know, how it's difficult. It's the trials and tribulations, but also the triumphs of being part of fandom, and why it's, you know, awesome to have these passions and these interests. And there's a Renaissance fair, and there's Comic-Con, and there's fantasy media. And like, it's just it's meant to be a real celebration of everything that's geeky and nerdy and fun. And also, obviously, it's a romance. It's, you know, they're nemesis. They're not rivals. They're not competing for anything. They don't want each other dead. So nemesis it is. But it's also a grumpy sunshine. It's, you know, it's someone who, we have the Viola Vi, who has a really hard time letting people in, and then we have Jack, who's a real people pleaser, and they kind of share this underlying sense of never feeling like they can be angry. And so it's this coming of age story. It's also a story about being a marginalized person in these, you know, in these various online communities, and also just kind of how to exist in the world when your existence takes a lot more out of you, and as well as just like just everything, you know, coming of age stuff. You know how hard that is. Maybe you're experiencing it right now. Maybe you've done it already. We know. But I do know, I'm excited about the fact that in the UK it's coming out under their First Ink imprint, which is just it's coming of age for any age is kind of their pitch. And I do think that what is so appealing about YA is that sometimes, you know, the coming of age journey can really speak to you. I always talk about the book We Used to Be Friends, which is about a friend breakup. And I read it in my late 20s and still just like sobbed through it because it felt super personal to me. I think the popularity of like Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo proves that many of us are still teenage girls and have never gotten over anything that's happened to us. So yeah, definitely the intention is that like this is a love story with a soft landing. It's very different from the Olivie Blake stuff. The themes are really about coming of age and taking up space in the world, and when it's worth it to love openly and honestly. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you come see me on tour. That would be super cool. It'd be nice to have a friend there. Anyway, I don't know if I have anything else to say. I think I have just like one ask that is relevant / worth addressing. Oh, someone did say your website has changed. It's true. My website has changed. I was spending a lot of time trying to, like, when I first designed my website, I wanted it to look a certain way. And so I built it like very customly, where every time I add something, there isn't an established like pattern. I want to use the word rubric there. So I basically have to recreate every new page from scratch. And every time I needed to add a certain functionality, it was hard to do because I didn't have like, anyway, so I have a new website. It doesn't like do anything different. It just does what it used to do in a way that's easy for me to update and is more flexible, because I have set everything up more intuitively. I have not, for example, like specifically chosen certain fonts for certain moments that are then very fiddly. My newsletter has changed a little bit, in that I'm no longer posting pictures of my son. He has reached a degree of sentience where I feel that it should really be more about me and my relationship to being a mother, rather than about like him specifically and pictures of him and what he's doing. Although obviously he's a huge part of my life and I can't prevent myself from talking about him. So this is what I wanted to focus on, was that someone told a very like personal story, and they don't want me to repeat the details, but basically it's someone who has been writing for a long time. They've built they've built a multiverse of 40 plus books across many worlds that center marginalized queer people. They say they're not marketable, although don't come into my house and talk about marketable, okay? I don't know what's marketable. The only one thing that many authors comment on when they meet me is they think it's amazing that I've written things that are quote unquote unmarketable. And the truth is that I am only allowed to do those things because the Atlas 6 went viral. Like, because you guys loved the Atlas 6 and made it go viral. I came into the publishing industry with a lot of power because I was able to say, look at all these people that will buy what I write. So things like Masters of Death and One for My Enemy that are like hard to pin down genre-wise, those exist because the Atlas 6 exists. I exist in publishing because you told publishing you would spend money. Like, that's what happened. And so it's this crazy thing where, like, you know, obviously I wrote the books and it's, you know, it's great. I think that my success is proof that people can go beyond genre conventions, that a lot of people are looking for something that is weird and a little bit eccentric. And I think that's true. Like, a lot of literary fiction does fall into that category, and genre maybe sometimes has a harder time. Like, within genre, there are like more rigid constraints. I always talk about too how Alone with You in the Ether probably would not exist the way it does in traditional publishing without The Invisible Life of ADDIE LARUE, which was itself quite an unusual book because it's much quieter than what Tor usually publishes, and it's, you know, more loosely a fantasy. There are a lot of books that don't necessarily fit under the constraints that normally books would have to. But the point of me saying that is that you can't necessarily say that your books are unmarketable and believe it, because sometimes it doesn't really matter what's marketable. Publishing can always make something marketable. It's just that sometimes it'll be kind of a lie, which is we won't go into that. Anyway, so this is someone saying that they narrate in a way that is more similar to Chinese dramas as opposed to anything Western. The plots don't have Western tropes. It's true that people do struggle with non-Western story conventions. Although, like, again, I experiment with form quite a lot, and I have been told many times that my books appear to follow something that's more closely aligned to an Eastern 3-act than a Western 5-act. But the truth is, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And like, I mean, I'm having a lot of fun, and that's what's important to me. This is why when people ask me, like, how should you world build or how should you set things up? There is no should. There is no correct answer. Basically, what you do is you identify, the best thing you can do, I should say, is you identify what you like about books that you like, and then you kind of follow those things. Like, so for me, what makes my books potentially feel different is I use unusual narration styles within fantasy / sci-fi worlds. So I'm doing things that are maybe more literary conventions, but also I'm doing things because no one's telling me that I can't, and because other people have bought them. Like, I can't understate the fact that I am extremely crowdsourced as an author, that a lot of what I learned in terms of how I craft story comes from fandom, and fandom is huge, and there is a lot of fan fiction taste bleeding into traditional books. And so a lot of what could be called eccentric or unmarketable is actually something that there's already an appetite for. So I only say that because I don't think you need to necessarily believe that your books are not marketable or that that's why you're not succeeding. Success is a real, like, with all creative careers, this is something I talk about all the time. There's no like corporate ladder to climb. There's no way to tell if you're doing well or like if you're succeeding or failing. You're basically failing until you succeed. I was failing until people wanted a book that had already gone viral, you know? And so all these books like Masters of Death that has now hit the New York Times list, that was written while I was failing. I was failing when I wrote it. So I just yeah, it's weird. These are all like caveats to why I think the market changes a lot So you can't say things like unmarketable, which is meant to be, bolstering to you. But also for me, it's hard to explain certain things because I can't necessarily tell you why things happened the way they happened. I just think that it's proof that it's good to follow your own creativity, your creative demands, as opposed to trying to suit a market that like chimerically changes. It is not the same market from year to year. So trying to please the market is not a thing you should ever worry about doing. So anyway, it seems like this person has had some trouble with literary agents, which, okay, I will tell you, it's true. I had a really hard time finding an agent. Many agents passed on Alone with You in the Ether. Before I decided to self-publish, I kind of tested the waters and then determined like, oh, these books aren't going to work. Alone with You in the Ether is a bit like I sincerely tried to query Alone with You in the Ether and it didn't go anywhere for reasons that people were like, I already have a mental illness book. I can't relate to these characters. Like, it's very frustrating that in order to get, like, you need the gatekeepers to buy into what you're writing. And I did, break through technically with My Mechanical Romance, which was at the time a very marketable book. There was an YA rom-coms were hot. It was Girls in STEM. That was hot. There was like kind of an opening in the market for it. So that like was my attempt, not my attempt. It was more of, I always tell writers, like in any creative career, you have to be adaptable, right? You kind of have to be able to do it all because an artistic career now is not what it was in the Medici era. It's almost a little unfortunate that you can write whatever you want. You can create whatever you want. You just also have to make sure you can prove that other people also want that thing, which involves being able to compare it to other things that exist. And that is very hard, and especially hard for marginalized creators. Yes. So that's why adaptability is key. I was not trying to please the market. It was more like I had an idea that felt worth investing. I actually did query another book. It was a second world fantasy. Like a historical feeling. I have almost completely forgotten about it now. I've talked about it on here before, All of the Night Approaching. I queried that and I actually did get some interest in that one. But by that time I had already come up with the idea for My Mechanical Romance and I felt that My Mechanical Romance was going to be a better book. I could just tell. So that is what I like put my eggs in that basket, so that by the time that the Atlas 6, the self-published book, went viral, I already had an agent and didn't have to work as hard to find publisher interest. All of which is to say that my journey is not replicable. Like there were lots of things that went fantastically right. Like my career is a series of accidents. It's me doing my best to roll with every punch. And I definitely had those punches. There were definitely people who didn't like my books or didn't understand them. It hit me really hard too. I regret now, someone left a 1-star review on Masters of Death and I complained about it on Tumblr because I was just like, I'm this tiny indie creator and like, the books are like, I'm trying to price them super low. Like I'm trying my best, blah, blah, blah. Now, of course it's crazy. Like I shouldn't have been on Goodreads anyway. I don't remember why I even went. I think I learned my lesson after that. And that like, obviously you're creating art and sometimes people are going to hate it. Like that's the risk with art, is that if you're actually taking a big swing, people will hate it. And if, like I think as artists, we're all trying to create an incredible thing, an unusual, original piece of art, and we hope that it's a 5-star. But in the attempt to make a 5-star, you risk the 1-star, right, of the person who really hates it. I don't think there was a question in this story so much as like, how do you continue to create when so much is against you? And it's funny because me now is always like, I'm gonna have a really hard time addressing this because things are going well for me now. But I think you can go back through a lot of these older videos and watch me fail live, like in front of the camera, say like, I don't understand why this isn't working. And I'm trying my best, but I don't know if it's ever going to go anywhere. And I think that you just unfortunately have to live in that feeling for a while. That's just how it goes. The period where you can't see where things are going. I don't want to offer you a bunch of cliches, but it's true that no word is ever wasted. Every word you write is moving towards something. It's giving you the tools to be able to build something later that you maybe aren't able to now or don't know yet. Like I am just coming off my event with Katie Robert, and she said something about how what she's writing is what she's thinking about at the time. And so sometimes you think about something really interesting at some time, and it's just like that book finds you at the right time, and it finds the reader at the right time. And it's just this total, yeah, it's just this symphony of accidents of how things find people and how they speak to you and how you sit down at exactly the right moment for a book to change your life, or to tell a story that will change someone's life. Like, it has to come from a really authentic place, all of which is to say, you can never worry about the market. You can, like, the extent to which you should worry about the market is that if you're a debut author, for example, you have to fit within certain constraints, like word count constraints. I think at the Tucson Book Festival, someone said they were writing a fantasy that would be their debut fantasy, and they were at like 150 words, and I just straight up said, like, cut it to like 120. And the thing is that if it's a good work and if it reaches the right agent, they will tell you to cut that 30,000 words, which is approximately it's approximately a character arc or a subplot. Unfortunately, the way that publishing works, like, we currently exist in a world where art is a business, and it prioritizes profit over people, and it prioritizes, well, profit over everything, profit over process, just everything. And so you basically have to get your foot in the door. And once you're in the door, you're more likely to be able to do something new and weird and interesting. But of course, how will the thing that you make get anyone's attention if it isn't to some degree new and weird and interesting? It's this, like, there's only so much you can do to make yourself appealing to the business of publishing. So I don't think you should bother, like, within reason. You definitely should not try to query a 250,000 word document. But, sometimes that happens and it's fine. I think it was Chloe Gong who said that her first duology was actually one book. Someone has to connect with your story is the thing. Like, whether traditional publishing or self-publishing, any success in publishing, in art of any kind, is someone has to connect with your art. And that will not happen if you are not putting something meaningful in there. So I understand that it is vulnerable. There is, like, I trust me, I understand at this point in my life and career, more than anyone ever could, that making art is vulnerable. And even from a place of success, even from a place where publishing is willing to gamble on me, that's not going to protect me from a bunch of people misinterpreting my art and willfully doing it too. That when people consume my art, they're doing it in a way that feels like I'm being engaged as a business as opposed to an artist, that I have failed them by not giving something that they wanted, as opposed to they don't like the art that I've made. And so, that's where I am right now. That's just like having to contend with those feelings, having to constantly remind myself that this is what art is. Art is risk. Art is vulnerability. It is intimacy, and it is risk. And, and how do you tell yourself that it's worth it? For me, it's because I'd be dead without it. Like, I don't know what my life looks like without the creation of art, but I can tell you it's not good. It's not, like, in terms of how alive I can be without art, it's not very. I don't think I could be the kind of person that I am, the kind of mother that I am, without the constant creation of art that comes from this extremely soft place. And ultimately, I make art because I want to be understood. I'm trying to say something because I'm just waiting for someone to tell me that they see what I mean, or they see what I'm trying to say. And so obviously it's so magical when people do, and it's so hurtful when people just don't and aren't willing to. And if I invite you on this like thought exercise, or this, like, here's what I'm pondering about the world, and you don't want to come on that journey, that is sad to me, but that is art. God, writing is a career that is filled with rejection. Most forms of art are, because it's so subjective, and not a lot of people want to put money into art. There's a real unwillingness to value art the way it should be valued, especially now. It's one of those things you have to be called to. It's like, I always joke that, I didn't choose to be a writer. It came for me in the night. that it's just like I can't not. So I guess I'm not too worried about you in that sense, because I think you're going to keep making art anyway. And I think the question is whether or not you're going to feel brave enough to share it. But I also am not too worried about that either, based on the details that you've given me that I am not going to give other people because you've asked me not to. I don't think you're the kind of person who is going to stay down for long, because I think this is too important to you for that. And I hope that you honor that. I think that's the best you can do, is like honor your art, that it's meaningful. I always think of Neil Gaiman's Make Good Art speech, and I tell myself all the time, just make good art. Just keep taking risks, keep taking like bigger and more, just keep taking interesting risks. Just keep doing the thing that makes you feel alive, because that is the only thing that's like really viral. You know, that's the only thing that's really going to move people to care about what you've said or what you have to say. Make good art. That is like, that's the only advice. But yeah, anyway, that's plenty. 12th Night is out now. I hope with all these book club situations, you have lots of people to talk about it with if you want, but you can't always talk about it with me. I relate very, very strongly to Vi, and I already know that everyone is going to complain about how unlikable Vi is, and it's like, I get it, you guys. I know. But it was an honor to write her, actually. It was really great to write someone who was very unapologetically themselves. I actually think Vi is going to be perfectly fine in life. And I kind of envy her, because I think I cared a little bit more what people thought, to my detriment. This has been me, Olivie Blake, not writing, and I'll see you next time.